What's up guys and welcome, Ronaldo Plays here, and today you're gonna learn everything about Guild Boss. You're gonna learn what gear you need to use because it's specific, what units you need to use, what different team comps, healers, what you have to do in the fight to get the max amount of damage, and some niche tricks to apply even more damage with the shields and everything. And on top of that guys, on top of that, also how you can actually get more out of your rewards, how to get better Guild Boss rewards, like how to, well, you just a small trick bonus tip in the end. But yeah, first off, I want to go over the different teams because there's mainly two teams that are talked about, but there are three comps, like three factions that you can consider against the Guild Boss, and let's go over it right now. And I created here a small spreadsheet for you guys for the different factions. I think it's easier this way than with the gallery, so I prepared this real quick. And as you can see, the first one and the most accessible team is gonna be the Nightmare team. You will have two factions to choose from, and one faction will probably always be the Nightmare faction because all of us will have a Wrath. Most of us will have an Abomination. At some point you can fuse them, right? And Komodo is fusible as well. So, and this is basically the one part of the team, the one core. You have the Lord, not much to say. They're here for the Lord bonus. Wrath can actually deal some nice damage. You have the best DPSs here with Arrogance and Deimos. A bomb can deal some nice damage. Hatsut is a bit suboptimal, but you also have Valeria. Unfortunately, her icon isn't here in this list, but Valeria is actually a top tier Guild Boss slayer, guys. Just keep that in mind. You have multiple bleeders. Bleeders are extremely good in Guild Boss because Guild Boss can be quite fighter heavy with your units, and bleeders will amplify your fighters' damage by a larger portion. Because the bleed, if you take a look here, go to gallery, right? Nightmare Council, and we go to bleed. There we go. Increases damage taken by 10%, right? So they take 10% more damage from your fighters, and on top of that, it also deals some nice percentage damage, but the main part is this 10%, and on top of these 10% bonus damage, you have some more bonus damage due to the Scarlet Hunt artifact. And as you can see, I have multiple Scarlet Hunt artifacts, and I use them on multiple fighters at once to get just multiple fighters to benefit from that bleed application, another 20% bonus damage while bleed is active. And so you can see it stacks really up, this bleed, and it can be in most teams utilized if you have a good bleeder. It really helps you a lot deal more damage. And they're basically here simply because they have the bleeder, they have the DPS and the Lord. Then the second faction, and I think the second faction, we go over this because it's an underrated one. The second faction is the Piercer faction. You heard it right, guys. Piercers are actually quite important or quite potent in this fight here. And you have a bunch of good piercers. So for the early games you have Cuke, right? In the early game you can use Cuke. Due to his poison application he can deal a lot of damage. I know he's not the piercer, but he's a marksman, so I count him as a piercer. He doesn't have a faction, right? So Cuke deals a lot of damage with his poisons. You can use him in the early game. And on top of that, you have three really good DPS. Lunaria also deals a lot of damage to the Guild Boss, not to underestimate. Silas is insane in Guild Boss with his defense threat. Hex, we all know now how good Hex is, right? And I will showcase you guys Hex later as well. So Hex also insane. And Calypso, bit of an underrated unit, but she usually takes a long time to scale up, ramp up in a fight, and in Guild Boss she actually gets that time to ramp up in this fight and deal a lot of damage. So Calypso, also a good DPS. So as you can see, the Piercers have quite some good DPS units, and lots of you will have the Fused Lord, and if you have some of these, you can go with some Piercer DPS as well. They are actually quite potent. And then the last faction, the strongest late game faction, but also hardest in terms of accessibility, is the Infernal faction. Now for the lords, as you can see, I have here Pyros in front of Twin Fiend. Why Pyros in front of Twin Fiend? Because if we take a look here at his skills, here he applies vulnerability to his enemy, and Twin Fiend doesn't do that until he is A1. So Twin Fiend needs his A1 to actually beat out Pyros. But until that, Pyros will beat out Twin Fiend, and therefore Pyros is actually the best lord in slot. And then Nightmare units also have the best DPS for Guild Boss with Zillitu. I think pretty much in terms of DPS, there's Zillitu number 1, then Arrogance probably number 2, then Hex number 3, and then number 4 is probably either Xylus or also Valeria in terms of overall DPS. Nocturne also insane DPS, and then here you actually have 2 epic DPS that deal a lot of damage here with Imani and Azoth. Then you have the strongest buffer in the game, Dolores, and here's Setram I put in utility. Why did I put Setram in utility? Basically, if you take a look at Setram, he deals a lot of damage to the guild boss, but he has a special talent, and that is right here. Increase all damage by 12%. Shielded targets take 40% extra damage. So Setram is extremely potent and pretty much in every endgame team for guild boss because of that. Because he can get rid of these shields really easily. He is a menace for these shields. He deals an insane amount of damage to shields. And this is why I put him in utility, because you mainly take him for the shield break. And then, as you can see, we have the 3 main lineups. So we have the Nightmare units paired up with either the Infernal or with the Piercers, depending on what you got, right? And then on top of that, we also have the healers. And in terms of the healers, you can see this is the best healers in the game here. Elowen, by far the strongest option. She gives you a lot of rage boosts for your team. She can heal your entire team really well as well. And then in terms of holo against Leia, it's hard to say for me because I don't have holo, right? But I can tell you guys, Leia, her heals are extremely potent, and her AoE heals are extremely potent as well. And if you have the same team like I will showcase you later, you will be able to do it with just Leia, just like Elowen. So she will be your single healer. Makes it a lot easier, so you can place one other unit, right? While I'm not sure if a decently geared holo can be your single healer, or if she needs a second healer. But holo has the better rage boost than Leia. And if you gear her well, I probably would say holo might even be better than Leia, but these are pretty much debatable. Then for the rest of the healers, you have Midon, who is really good here. She has the same range as Leia, and if you can use her because she does AoE heals, and AoE heals are the best for the guild boss because he just does AoE damage, right? And she actually, if you take a look at Midon, her ultimate cleanses all debuffs, so you can get rid of the burn from the guild boss with her ultimate, which will help you quite a bit, and therefore she is really good as well. Vortex also really good for guild boss because just like holo, he has insane range, so he can cover a lot of space and probably heal everyone if you build him extremely well. And then of course we have the buffer, and the trickster is Baron, and also Volkov for the trickster is also because I will show you guys what I am gonna do with the shields here. But yeah, this is about the units, right? This is the healers, and these are the 3 damaging factions where you can choose from what you want to pick. And as you guys can see here, like in most of these top tier whale accounts, you will see exactly these units that I listed here before, right? You have Nightmare Infernal as your endgame units, but in most of these teams you will see still a silent Silas. You will still see some Silases in there, even without the Affection Lord, which already shows you how powerful Silas is. But if you don't have an Infernal team, you can go for the Pierces and buff your Silas up as well. Because if you take a look here, in terms of damage dealt, he has 100 million damage to Silas without a Lord, right? Without a Lord, he did 100 million. And as you can see, Silas is really potent, and Hex is also a piercer. So if you want to go with the piercers around, there's an avenue you can do it. And as you can see, like all these endgame players, they pretty much all are using a Eloin as their healer. And here, as you can see, someone actually does it with the Piercer Lord, because he may not have a other Lord. And look at that, Silas bumping up the numbers. He uses Piercer Lord also for Hex. So yeah, there's basically the three core units that you want to focus on: Infernal, Piercer, or Nightmare. Nightmare is pretty much always the case for most of you guys, because Nightmare is the most accessible, plus the bleed can help a lot in terms of accessible units. Before we actually go into the fight, guys, I really want to emphasize gear on these units, because gear in Guild Boss is really like you can really do a lot with the gear. And if you take a look here, I have two examples, and that is this set is extremely good for pretty much any unit in DPS department for your Guild Boss. And I put it here on Arrogance, simply because he's one of my best damage dealers. Then another unit, another gear set that I want to put emphasis on is here on my Pyrus, and as you can see, Soulbound Arcana and the Infernal Roar, the two sets from Gear 8.3. This is why I put so much emphasis on you guys in terms of Gear 8.3. This is why I rated Gear 8.3 units so highly and value them so highly, because the best two sets are both dropping from Gear 8.3. And I would say on your most of the DPS you would prefer the Infernal Roar set, but of course you won't have that many Infernal Roar sets, so Soulbound Arcana will help you a lot as well. And I really like it on Pyros, because the reason why I put it on Pyros, 500 cost ultimate, right? You get it. The lower the cost of the ultimate, the more you can make use of this set, and therefore for the guys that don't know, after ultimate is cost, damage increases 10% permanently, stacking 5 times. So low cost ultimates will have more benefit from here. Or a auto ultimate like Arrogance could use this as well. If you take a look at Arrogance ultimate, it's also quite low cost, so you can also put it on Arrogance. Just for you guys. But if you have to decide, for example, between a Arrogance or a Hex, as you can see here, Hex has quite a lot of cost on his ultimate, and therefore I would recommend you to go with the Soulbound on Hex and the Infernal Roar on the Soulbound on Arrogance and Infernal Roar on Hex, if you have to choose in this aspect, right? Or if you use Imani or whatever, right? Which is also why I really like Lunaria, because if you take a look here, her ultimate is quite low cost, especially here if you put her skill her up a bit more. You can get her ultimate to 700 cost and use Soulbound Arcana on her as well. Or Calypso, same thing, right? Soulbound Arcana on Calypso is also really good. In terms of the gear for the healers, guys, you really want to get this set right here. If possible, I don't have it on my Leia as well, so but if you can, you want to get it. And then, as you can see, healing effect when deployed, one hero and this hero gain 10% more attack. So basically you want to place your strongest DPS first, and then second you want to place your healer, because this way you ensure that your strongest DPS will be the one that receives that 10% attack buff. Now in terms of the artifacts, for the marksman you basically want to go for a nether messenger, a Idril's gaze. These are the best two options pretty much, but you can also go for shadow gaze. Taunting gaze is fine as well, or even a broken nightmare works fine as well, depending on your units. By the way, before I forget it, you can also use Idril, right, for the guild boss if you don't have better options. Then for the fighters, you basically have two main sets that you want to use. It's either Flawless Blade or Scarlet Hunt. These are the best ones that you can use. Then for the mages, you have the Tear of Starlight, but I guess most of you won't have this. I did hundreds of artifact pulls. I wasted thousands of stamina just to get one single piece of these. So yes, Tear of Starlight is really insane, of course, but the Blue Sea Ice Ring is actually really strong as well, because it increases your damage by 10%. So you can also go with a Blue Sea Ice Ring as well, or you can flip a Eye of White Tower. You have either attack bonus or attack speed bonus, and you usually want to flip the attack bonus, and if you didn't flip the attack bonus on your unit, you just restart until you get the attack bonus. For your healer and your buffer, so for Dolores you want Ancestral Teachings, then because it gives her the most attack, so the more attack she has, the more attack your units gain, right? Then for your healer you want Orb of Euphoria, simply because it also boosts the attack speed of your units, giving you some more DPS. And last but not least, also, before I forget it, if you don't have a Dolores, you can use a Autumn as your buffer, huh? Just a small note that I wanted to add. But yeah, that's about it about the artifacts. Alright, now that we know which units we want to go for, which factions we want to look at, we know which gear we want to look at, we know which artifacts we want to look at, we know everything, but we don't know about the fight yet. So let's go into it, shall we? I know not everyone will have a stacked roster like I do here, but you will probably have as good, if not better gear, because I didn't do any gear rates in a while because I'm too lazy to sell all my gear at the moment. I have a lot of stuff to do. I'm quite busy lately, but yeah, that's another topic. And as you can see here, I have a bit of a special strategy here with the Volca and the Baron, and I want to show you exactly this. I think I might be able to beat the third shield anyways, but I want to show you guys what you can do if you cannot finish off the third shield. So let's get right into it. There's a few bonus tips that you can use here for the guild boss, and there is the first one will be, first off, we place our nightmare units here. There we go. Now you might be a bit confused soon. Why did he place Volca and the Baron? Because I will despawn him, and my nightmare units will still have the full nightmare buff after despawning. So even though I despawned two of my nightmare units, the other two that are still standing will still have that 25% bonus damage buff for themselves. Bonus attack speed, my bad. For themselves, even though I despawned them. This is why you want to use 4 nightmare units if possible. Then, as you can see, this ultimate from Pyrus is already up, and we want to use it immediately at the beginning, because the first shield of the guild boss is going to be quite weak, and for the first shield we don't need all of our ultimates, so we can just use everything here. Now the first shield is about to come up after the meteor impact. It's always after a meteorite impact where he puts up his shields. So now he's going to put it up, and now we use our Dolores and our Cetram. These are our key ultimates, especially Dolores you want to use for the shield. And there we go. The shield is broken. Now he takes a lot of damage because of the shield break. And there we go. Now we can just use our Paris again, as we can see, and his damage is increased by 20% because of the Soulbound Arcana already. And then we're just gonna wait, and for the second wave of ultimates we're actually only going to use our Pyrus, because we want to get our Soulbound Arcana buff, and he deals a lot more damage because of that, right? So we will wait. Now Infernal Roar, and after the next Meteorite Strike, he will put up his shield again. So as you can see, he's preparing it, and my Cetra mold will take a while to get online, get ready. So I'll pop it preemptively. Now the shield comes up. I use all of my bursts at the same time to get rid of the shield as quick as possible, because the second shield is already quite potent, right? And there we go. Shield is done. He takes a lot of damage because of the shield break, a lot of damage. And now we zoom in. And now we use all of our ultimates right now, because we won't be able to beat the third shield. We won't be able to survive the third shield. And which is why we're just gonna use all we have here. Now he's gonna use his Meteorite Impact. And I'm gonna actually get rid of my units here. I'm gonna get rid of them, because he's gonna put up the shield now in any second. As you can see here, putting up his shield. Now my Wrath doesn't really matter if he dies, because he's not really equipped, so it's okay. And now he's gonna use his extremely strong breath, and this is why we use the full tank Baron right here and a Volca, because now as you can see, because of the Volca, the respawn timers are soon to be up, and Baron can just stand there menacingly, right? He can just stand there and tank. Now our units are back up, and we can start placing everyone back in there for the last bit of damage, just to edge out a little bit more damage, just a little more. Otherwise we would be dead after the shield break, right? So we just put them back in there, get some more damage going. And this way we were able to actually use our ultimates not on the third shield, so we didn't have to waste our damage on the third shield, but we were able to use it before the third shield was able to come up, which made us get some bonus damage before the third shield even comes up. And as you can see, 12k damage here due to that. There we go. And of course, let's take a look at the damage done. So, wow, okay, that's interesting. Okay. So finally my arrogance is getting out damaged. That's mainly because of the bleed, of course. My arrogance is getting out damaged. Interesting. So Hex, actually, now that I see it, is insane. Wow. Hex, Zealot deal a lot of damage, and as you can see, Pyrus with 16 million damage, and also Satram, and here my Wrath 3.4. I did him a bit dirty, not gonna lie. I did him a bit dirty, because if you take a look at my Wrath, he's not fully equipped. He's not fully equipped. So he could have done some more, of course. He doesn't have the best gear. But also, why did I use Wrath, guys? Why did I use Wrath? The reason why I used Wrath is basically his A5. As you can see, when he is in his ultimate, he starts restoring HP, and therefore he will self-sustain and won't need a healer for himself. And that was crucial for me, because if we take a look at Leia and her range, where is it? Here is her range. As you can see, she would only reach 2 fighters the way I placed her, and therefore I really needed one self-sufficient unit, and this is why we placed down a Wrath. And the last thing I wanted to go over with you guys is that you usually want to do one key for one difficulty and one key for another to get 4 chests instead of 2. It's just something small. Some people know it, some people don't, but usually if you get 4 chests, let's say you get 2 of this reward 4 and you get 2 of the reward 3 from here, it's better than getting 2 of reward 5. And of course always do the nightmares that your guild can beat, and if you're further than your guild, just swap your guilds, just swap it. Other than that, I think I covered all the bases. I hope you learned something, and I'm Ronaldo and I'm out. Peace.